Hi guys, EBPMAN here, and today's video is going to help you maximize your use of the S Pen. This video will focus on configuration and how to use the S Pen features. Let's check it out. Now, one of the things that I enjoy the most about the S Pen is its practicality. And when you need to take a note, you don't want to go through authenticating yourself on your phone, literally turning it on, logging in, using your password, using your iris scanner technology. Now, one of the things I really enjoy about the S Pen is how practical it is and how much thought Samsung gave to how we use pen and paper. First of all, think about it. You don't have to turn on a pad of paper. You don't have to unlock a pad of paper. So why would you have to do that on your note? So simply put, all you have to do is pop out the stylus, and as soon as you pop it out, it's going to go into writing mode where you can take a note. So if I need to remember that I need to go ahead and buy some bread, I can just write that I need some bread. I can say I also want to buy some milk, and I can just write that I would like to get some milk. And I continue down with my list of things that I need to remember for later on when I'm come back from work. Now, you have a couple of choices. You could erase something, so if you need to make a correction. You could also then delete it if the note is completely off, or you can save it. But let's talk about how practical things are. Do you have to save your note when you write it on a sheet of paper? The answer is no. So why would you have to do that with the S Pen? All you do is stick the S Pen back in its sleeve and the note gets saved automatically. Now, once you've used that off-screen technology to write a memo, you wonder, well, where did the memo go? Well, as soon as you write it, Samsung is really good about keeping it top of mind. So in the notifications area, as soon as you swipe down, you're going to see that there was a off-screen memo written. You can select it, and once you select it, that memo that you just wrote is going to come back up. Now, before we continue with reviewing the applications and how the S Pen works, let's talk about the S Pen for a second. First of all, this tip here is replaceable. You did have a tool that came in the box with the phone that in the event that you do drop your S Pen on the floor and the tip gets bent or you feel that it's not writing smoothly, you can replace that without any problem. Now, this side here has no functionality outside of when it's inside of the phone. When you push it, it pops out and it makes it easy to remove. So this doesn't function as an eraser, or it doesn't do anything by just pressing it. There's no action that takes place like a Microsoft Surface tablet. Now, this button right here is used for selecting and also invoking this, what you see here, that's called Air Command. And Air Command gets automatically activated as soon as you take your stylus, or in this case the S Pen, out of the phone. So just to illustrate it, watch. As soon as I push that little pop out, I pull out the pen, or the S Pen, all of a sudden the Air Command comes out. So it's that easy to get started. Now, the first thing we'll talk about is creating notes. So when you create a note, you're going to come into an area that looks like a standard notepad, and the writing on the notepad is very similar to writing just like if you're writing on a sheet of paper. It's very smooth and it's very convenient. You do have a couple features here where you could use either an S Pen to write on the page, or you can use your keyboard. You also can change your tips so that you have a brush. You could add an image. So for example, let's say you're at the store and you're looking at a refrigerator, you're looking at appliances, sofa, or just some type of gadget, something that you're looking that you want to take notes about or remind yourself later. You can actually use that. You could also use your voice to record text. So you'll notice here on the very bottom, you also have these controls that give you the ability to either be in pen mode, erase mode. You can select things. There's an undo, and then there's a redo, and then you can expand the page so that you can continue writing. You'll notice here on this side you have Air Command, so this is going to bring up that menu again when you get here. That is going to allow you to access any of those controls that we're going through in this video. And then you have the ability to categorize. Right now this happens to be an uncategorized note. If I pull this menu down, you'll notice that you can save as well from this menu. So now, as you see at the very bottom of this page, you see a cursor blinking, which indicates that you can type something or do something there. Remember, you can start writing on the screen if you'd like, but I just wanted to show you some of the things that you can do here at the very bottom. I'm going to tap this area here, and you'll notice that the keyboard comes up. So that's one thing, so that you could use your keyboard. Now, before you tap the keyboard or the area, just like I showed you, and get the keyboard, I want you to notice that there is this little T, this text with a pen on it. Most people miss this because all they do is they tap in the area and they start using the keyboard. But if you tap on the T, it's really going to change so that you can use your pen to write, and it will recognize and put text in the appropriate area. So if I type in or write the word bread, what will happen is it will automatically recognize it as text, and then I can choose it, and now I can continue my list. So I can say bread, milk, up, and I can hit back a little bit. So that's my list. I can say I want some water, and you'll notice how accurately it's recognizing these things. And when I hit done, you'll notice I have a list of items that I've typed in using my pen. And I say typed in, I actually wrote them down, but they'll get listed here and they're available inside of your note. Now, once you write something down in this area, and this pretty much goes for anything where you're writing handwriting text, you'll notice that you do have the back button here that you can use to back out text. But one of the things you could do too is just go over it like this, and it erases. So remember, the tip here isn't an eraser, but you can just write over something and it will erase as well. Now, one of the things that you'll notice is that as you type or write into this area, you do have this cursor. This cursor could be moved anywhere, and it allows you to make any kind of adjustments that you want to your list or to whatever you're writing. Now, once you hit done, your text appears, everything that you wrote, but you may be asking yourself, well, how do I get it to the very top? How do I get it to the top because it's at the very bottom? Well, all you do is you tap on the text, and we'll go back to the pen, and you'll notice that your list, the items that you wrote, are at the top. Now, this is all dependent on where your cursor is, so you'll notice that there's some things down here. So what I'd want to do is get my cursor all the way over here, and then I would go back into the pen mode so that it shows up at the very top. So this is how you can move your text up easily if you see it appearing on the bottom. So now that we have text, which you can edit, as you notice as it pops up as I'm moving my pointer around, a voice message, you may want to move the sheet up. Well, if you were to use your S Pen, it's going to draw a line. So what I do is I move up, and I don't use my S Pen because the S Pen is not going to move it anywhere. So let's go ahead, and don't like the way that's what's going on. So now that we have our text in here, we also have a voice memo. You may want to move the sheet up. Well, if you use your S Pen, it's just going to write something. So what you want to do is use your finger to move it up. You can erase just like using the eraser, and if you did have, again, a word here, what we'll do is we'll erase this one more time. Let's go ahead and put in a word. Alright, so now we have our text, we have a voice memo, and if you want to move the page up, you don't want to use your stylus because the stylus is going to write on the page. You'll use your finger. The note knows the difference between a stylus and your finger to just move things up. You can draw, you can use the brush tool, you can use any of these tools to continue to add more content or detail to this specific note. Or what you could do is just go up here and then hit save, and your note is saved. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the brush function. So with the brush function, you have a brush, but you also have other pens that you can use from here. You can go pencil, you can go brush, you can go with a marker, and as you put your pointer over it, it's going to tell you what you have. So there's your airbrush, there's your marker pen, you have a pencil, you have a calligraphy brush, so we'll choose that, and it's going to be pressure sensitive. So as you do things, and I'm not a good calligrapher, so please pardon my calligraphy, you can write, and it's going to be pressure sensitive. So the harder you press, the thicker the stroke. The lighter you do, the lighter it's going to be. You do have your eraser functions, but again, since you're kind of like in drawing mode, it's not like when you're trying to erase a whole word. You're really erasing a portion of it little by little. You do have the ability to change colors, and you have a color palette here that you can choose from. So I'd say just get creative and do what you'd like to do on this screen when it comes to just the brush or the pens. Once you're done with it, it does get inserted wherever your cursor is to the actual note that you're working on if you are in a note. Or you could go straight and start working with a new brush and a new note, and it would be just about that specific image that you drew. Now the last function I wanted to show you here is the image function. So you can choose an image, and I'm going to choose an image that I had already stored here from a photo. And I want to remind myself that I need to get hot chocolate, and this is for my Tassimo machine. So what I could do is I've just inserted this into this specific note, so now I'm remembering that I need to get a Tassimo hot chocolate when I go to the store. Now another neat function is Smart Select. So I'm going to go back into my air command and I'm going to do Smart Select. And the neat thing about Smart Select, and I'm going to say allow, is, I'm going to confirm, is you can do several things, as you can see here by this overlay tutorial. You can select a specific area. You could even create an animated GIF if you'd like to do that, and we've seen a lot about that. So you'll see in Facebook where people have like these moving pictures that are not videos but they're animated GIFs. That's what you could do here. But for practical purposes, I like Smart Select, and I use Smart Select if I want to copy something that I see that I'd like to save for review a little bit later. Like in this case, I have a recipe. So I have my rectangle is selected up here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab it from the corner and I'm going to highlight the area of what I want to Smart Select. Now once I've done that, I have everything here listed of what I copied. Now you have a couple options. You could also do a text extraction, which means it's going to go through here and convert whatever's there to text. I can draw on this. I can share it, which means I can email, text it, save it. I could also set it as a wallpaper if I'd like, or I could just save the image. Now text conversion works really well, so I'm going to choose extract text, and you notice how quickly it got the text of the selection that I had, and then all I have to do is hit share, and then I can share it with someone else. Now the animation function that you see here would work well if, let's say for example, I'm playing this YouTube video. What I could do is I could go into animated GIF, and then as that video is playing, I can highlight this area, hit record, and determine the quality, so then I can share a piece of that. That's what the animated GIF will do. It also works with photos. It works with anything that has movement that you want to be able to store. Now another neat function is the translation capabilities that you have by using your pen. It may not be super practical. I find that using this function is best when you're looking at a menu. So if you're looking at a digital copy of a menu, and let's say you're going to an Italian restaurant or a Taiwanese restaurant or even a Chinese restaurant, and they don't really have the menu in English or your local language, it's really easy to use your S Pen to do that. Let me show you how it will work here for the news. I'm going to choose Translate, and I have news about the earthquake in Italy, and it's in Spanish. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my pointer right over this word that's magnitud, which translates to magnitude. If I look at localidad and I highlight it, it's going to say the location. So it will translate, and the neat thing about this is that I didn't choose the language. It's actually interpreting from the website what the local language is, and then it knows, since my note is in English, that I would like to see the content in English. So very useful for just converting words or even components of your screen to your language when you're looking at something that's obviously not in your current speaking tongue. Now another function that we skipped over is screen write. Screen write allows you to take a screenshot, and I'm just going to allow this. So I took a screenshot of this screen that we were translating, and what this allows you to do is just write on top of it. So how useful this will be to you, it all really depends on what the use is. I find that when I was in school and I was in college, if I was looking at a syllabus or I was looking at a notice that was on a bulletin board, that it was really useful to do a capture with the photo and then just to highlight things and to write on things. I found that to be very, very useful for my use, and it may be useful for you as well. So at this point we've covered all of the icons or the Air Command basic functions. So let's go into the adding shortcuts section, and this is actually, we're going into kind of like the settings area. So what you do, or what you have here, are all of the shortcuts that are stylus specific. Well, you could add other things. If you're someone who really likes using a stylus, or in this case the S Pen, what you could do is just select an application, and here are some that are available. You have Glance, and then you also have Magnify, and I don't have them on mine, so I'm going to grab Magnify and I'm going to add it, and then I'm also going to add Glance, and we're going to look at these two, but these are all S Pen based apps. You could also add non S Pen based apps for launching. I don't really recommend that because you could use the side, kind of the edge kind of applications to do that. So I kind of stick to only those things that I would use. So let's take a look at some of these and how they work. So now that I've added a couple components, I can execute some other features. So if I choose Magnify, what that will do is that will highlight, just like a magnifying glass, any area of the screen. Why you'd want to do this, I don't really know. Maybe because something is difficult to read, or you just want to zoom into a photo. I think this would be great for photos. For text and for the screen, it's not that practical, but it's there for a magnifying solution. You could also use this if you're looking at let's say a medicine bottle and you didn't zoom into it, but you'd like to kind of explode it and see it. You can use that as well. Anything that is small print. And here on the upper right hand corner, you can control what magnification you're working with. Now the next thing you're seeing here on the screen is a little thumbnail of the news area that we were just looking at. And that's because I'm in glance mode. You'll notice I'll go back to it and how it comes back. I'll remove my pointer from it or my S Pen. I'm going to hit OK. And the purpose of having things in glance mode, and I'm going to show you how you invoke this, is to give you the ability to work in one area of the screen, but then invoke this S Pen view or this pop out so that you can actually glance and see information if you're working on something over here. So let's say, for example, you're typing up an email and you want to reference some facts that you saw on this website. You could just put it in glance mode and then it would just disappear and allow you to do what you're doing on this side and then just come back. Now this is what you'll have to do to get glance mode to work. You're in the application that is the application that you want to glance. You go into your S Pen Air command and then you're going to choose glance. And what it will do is it will take that application and put it to the side while you're working on other things. Now once you've used the glance mode and you're done with it, one of the things that you may be wondering is how do I get rid of the glancing function? Because if you go back here into the Air command, which by the way, Air command can be found on either side of the screen. You can actually, when it's in this icon form, you can drag it on either way, top, bottom, left, or right. Well, how do you get rid of that? So if you want to get rid of it, hitting glance is not going to work. What you'll do is you'll come into your multitasking function and then you'll just close out the app, and then that's how you get rid of the glance feature. So that's literally everything there is to know about the S Pen and its use. So let me show you now some of the configuration options that you have by simply going into Advanced Features in the Settings area. So once you go into Advanced Features, you're going to choose S Pen. And I'll put the S Pen aside, we don't need it for this function. You have the ability to select any of these and to see shortcuts and floating icons. So this is about enabling the floating icon function that we saw in Air Command. So you can enable or disable that. Air View is another neat feature, and Air View gives you the ability to kind of, it's almost like the glance, but Air View is going to allow you to put your S Pen on top of a calendar entry and show the calendar entry. You could do that with photos too, so if you're looking at a lot of little thumbnails, you can put your pointer on top of the thumbnail and it's going to expand just like with a magnifying glass. And then also what you are able to do is just hover and extend content just by using your S Pen. So this is a pretty neat function. I really don't use Air View much, so I'm just going to turn it off because it's something that I don't use. One of the things I always recommend is that if there's a function that you're not going to use and it's enable, I disable it. It does take up system processing memory or resources, and if you're not going to use it, the best thing to do is to just get rid of it. So direct pen input. The direct pen input is a function that I do use, and that, remember, we saw that little T, which was text with the pen on it, and it allows you to write the words as opposed to typing it. You can enable that or disable that in this function as well. Pointer, when you use your S Pen, there's a little pointer that shows up, and it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but there's a little dot. You can enable or disable that if you'd like. You have, let's go into this area, you can program or tell the phone, when I pull the stylus out, what do I want it to do? So you could either say enable Air Command, create a note, or do nothing. You have the ability to turn on or off your screen memo. and that's the screen off memo. That's where you pop it out like we did at the very beginning, and then you will be able to start writing. I leave that on. I use that all the time. S Pen alerts, really critical. I use this all the time. This, if your pen gets detached and you walk away, it will alert you. I get so many emails and private messages and people that lost their stylus or their S Pen, and this is one way that you can keep track of it because it will alert you. And you notice right here that it says it was last attached at 8:24 on 8:24 at 2:34 p.m. So it knows when I took it out. So this kind of gives you a reference of where were you when you last used it. Now, what you could also do is save battery power by turning off the detection of the S Pen while it's attached. You can either turn that on or off. I'm kind of indifferent for that function because you know, it's right now it's when it's inside of it. So why would I always want detection on even if it's connected? You have a pen sound, so when you take it out, it makes a swoosh, and then also it will vibrate, so it gives you feedback. I keep these two features because sometimes I've had my stylus or S Pen fall out, and when it makes the noise and it vibrates, it immediately you know, kind of alerts me to that function. So those are all the features in the S Pen that you can consider to configure. So guys, that concludes our S Pen tutorial of everything you need to know about using the S Pen and all the practical use cases that you can consider when using your S Pen. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching.